Hello everyone, Christina here. Welcome to another video. Today I'm going to be showing you 4 different Distress Oxide blends for autumn, and I'm going to be using 4 different stencils or stencil sets from Simon Says Stamp to do that. Starting out with the Autumn Splendor stencil, and I've also used the nested circle die set to cut out a circle. And this is a pretty intricate stencil, so I'm going to use some pixie spray on it. Pixie spray is a very, very light adhesive. It won't tear your paper when you remove it from your project. And you just spray it on the back of your stencil pretty evenly, let it kind of dry for about a minute, and then you can press it down onto your cardstock. The cardstock I'm using for all my blending today is Neenah Classic Crest Solar White cardstock, and this is the 80-pound version. So it's not the super heavy one, it's the one that's a little bit lighter. Starting out with Antique Linen Distress Oxide ink, and I put that down pretty heavily. I'm coming in with Wild Honey. I'm going to bring this across and a little bit down onto the other side of this circle, and then I'm going to bring in some Fired Brick. So all of the ink blending that I'm going to be showing you today will be in real time. I'm not speeding anything up because I think it's important for those of you who maybe not have blended before to see realistically how long it takes to get a pretty good blend, especially with these mini round blending tools. The blender brushes that are pretty popular that have come onto the market over the last couple of years, they are a little bit more forgiving, especially when you're using stencils like this. But I did want to use the same foam blending tools that I've showed you guys in the past with my Christina's Oxide blends, because I want there to be a little bit of consistency across the board. But you could definitely use a blender brush or any other blending tool that you have on hand to use, to do all of these blends. So this one's not such a linear blend where the colors are just kind of in stripes. I want it to be a little bit, have a mix of the blend. And after I removed my stencil, I realized I didn't like the stark white of the design. So then I just went over each one of these areas and added a little bit of color over the top. And that colored the very white, bright lines and just toned it down a little bit. I think in general, I prefer a look like this. And you'll see me do that with the remaining stencil designs that I show you today. So this one is a really, really simple blend. In fact, they're all really simple. None of them are really complicated. Just go for it. And these colors blend really well together because they're very similar colors and next to each other. They would be next to each other on a color wheel. So that's my first blend for today. Here's my second blend. For this one, I'm going to be using the Simple Patterns Trio stencil set from CZ Design. It has 3 different stencil designs, and these stencils are sized perfectly for an A2 card. So it's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. So I've cut my cardstock to the same size and then taped it to the stencil. And I'm going to be using 3 different colors. I've got Crackling Campfire, Fossilized Amber, and Faded Jeans. And these are your basic red, yellow, blue. However, they are more muted. They're not very saturated and bright like your normal red, yellow, blue that you would use for a traditional rainbow. So this is going to give us a little bit more of a rainbow blend today, but with more muted colors. So this would be more of a rainbow for autumn. That's what I think of in my mind. Something that's a little bit more muted, a little bit more on the warm, cozy side of things. So I love how these 3 colors blend because you really do get like a full rainbow effect by only using 3 colors. Got a little bit of a corner left here for Faded Jeans. I kind of wish I wouldn't have brought that Crackling Campfire down quite so far so that I would have a little bit more blue at the bottom, but you know what? It turns out great. I'm not being too picky about it. I think the blend turned out wonderfully. So after I put on this blue, I'm going to go back and do some additional blending using Fossilized Amber, and that's going to just blend out that greenish overlapped area and give it a smoother blend. And this is one of those instances where I'm glad I'm showing it to you in real time so that you can see what you need to do to get a better blend. So I'm removing my stencil from my project, and here we are. I love that stencil. Such a simple design and so striking. For this third one, I'm going to be using, yet again, another Stamp Temper stencil. This is Floating Leaves, and I'm using 3 very traditional autumn colors for this. I'm going to do an under layer of blending so that when I put the stencil over the top and then remove it after I blended a second layer, that first layer will soften the design. So I'm using mustard seed, I've got some ripe persimmon, and then walnut stain. And this is a very, very light blending of color going all the way down and across. And I'm not worried about making it a super smooth blend at this point because the blend over the top of the stencil is where I want all the smoothing to happen. So now I've got that stencil. I'm going to put my project face down on top and tape it to the stencil so it doesn't move. Mix it so I can blend all the way to the edge. And then I'm going to go ahead and start blending right over the top. And I want this color to be very saturated. So I'm almost just like stamping down using that foam tool because I want to put down a lot of color into these areas. I also have a piece of Post-it tape just stuck to my fingertips here so that I can hold down the project while I'm doing all of this blending. Pressing fairly hard onto the surface, and so it really moves that stencil. So I do need to have my other hand kind of holding it down so that I can get a better blend. So like I said, I'm being very heavy-handed with the colors on this one because I know they're going to blend so beautifully, and I'm not too worried about getting the blend to eventually happen. Like I've mentioned in previous blending videos, when it comes to Distress Oxide inks, don't be afraid to add a lot of color on top. I find that the colors blend so much easier if you have a lot of the ink on the surface of your paper. It's just as if you were blending paints on a palette, acrylic paints on a palette. If it's not blending to the color you want, you add more paint. So in this case, if it's not blending the way you want, add more ink. It's going to be a great kind of a big game changer for your blending once you sort of come to that realization. So I'm coming in with walnut stain down here at the bottom, adding a lot of that color on top and trying to get these colors to blend. So after I have the walnut stain on here, I'm going to go back to ripe persimmon. Actually, this time I decided to go back to mustard seed, and I'm going to bring in that yellow and just soften that blended area. And it's going to give it a really nice effect. I'm adding more and more of that mustard seed. And now I'm going to go back to ripe persimmon and get that center area right down the middle blended a little bit more. So the way to clean off these stencils is super easy. Distress oxides come off stencils with just a little bit of water. Sometimes I take a soft brush and kind of brush it with a little bit of hand soap, but for the most part, the ink just slides right off. These are super easy to clean up. So here you go. There's that little bit of underlayer color with the very saturated color on top. I think this might be my favorite of all 4 blends I show you today. Let me know in the comments after you see this last one, which was your favorite. For this last one, I'm using bubble wrap stencil, and I cut out a heart using the nested hearts die set from Simon. Like I've done in the previous designs, I did a little bit of an underlayer blending with these colors. I've got crushed olive, chipped sapphire, and seedless preserve. And after I had all those blended, I taped my heart to the stencil, and now I'm going to do that same thing over again, trying to get really saturated color and kind of stamping the color down into those areas so that I have a lot of ink to work with as I blend. This particular blending combo of colors, it's muted. It's kind of autumny in that it's very muted, but I think this is kind of a year-round color blending combination. I wanted to bring in that crushed olive, and I also wanted a little bit of that seedless preserves because those colors are really autumn colors. Chipped sapphire seemed like the perfect color to transition between the two, and I really like how it turned out. I ended up making this heart into a birthday card, and I think it kind of lends itself well for that kind of celebratory greeting. So I'm going to add my crushed olive on this last little corner on the heart and getting those colors really blending. So I chose 4 different dies from Simon Says Stamp to finish off these cards. You're going to see me show them here in a minute. And I kept it really, really simple for these cards. I just cut out the die cut gradings and then adhered everything to a card. I didn't do anything special or add any additional elements or designs to the cards. I thought this ink blending was beautiful and decided to keep it simple and just add the gradings on top. So here's that heart blended piece. I love how those colors sort of overlap. Here are all 4 autumn blends. Hope you guys enjoy all of those designs. So I'm using 4 different dies and then also the Neutrals foil paper pack from Concord and 9th. Ran everything through my die cut machine and then adhered them all to card bases. Got a 5x7 card and 3 A2 cards. And I really love how those turned out. I used the gold and the silver foil papers, and I think I really like this set of cards. Yeah, so let me know down in the comments which is your favorite, and if you kind of like this series of different blends. I think I might do one for Halloween and one for Christmas, things like that. Give you some different ideas for blends to use for different occasions throughout the year. Thanks so much for watching today. I will catch you guys in another video very soon.